2021 season, Week 10, Saints-Titans. Simeon is going to find Johnson. He's going to get tackled at the 4. Now, the Saints are down 11 late in the game, so they're going to need at least a 3 and an 8 to force overtime. They have goal to go from the 4, and either way, your first 3 plays are going to be into the end zone. Your decision is going to be when you get to 4th down. Now, this 3rd down play is incomplete. Now, on 4th down, what do you do? And I'm going to show you why the Saints took the, by far, worst of the 2 options. So what was one option? One option is to kick on 4th down, which is what Sean Payton decided to do. What's your probability of winning if you kick on 4th down? Well, you're going to need the kick, you're going to need a defensive stop, you're going to need a score. We're going to have to lay out every single thing the Saints need, the probability of each, and then multiply them together. And that's the probability of winning the game if you kick on 4th down. It's just like flipping a coin. Say you were going to flip a quarter twice, and you wanted to know what's the probability of getting 2 consecutive heads, because the Saints are going to need 5 consecutive things to go their way in order to win this game. So you would just multiply, if you're flipping this coin, the probability of getting heads on the first times the probability of getting heads on the second. You break it down, you find the probabilities, and you multiply. So just to show this for a second, let's actually flip some coins. Let's say that cats are heads, because cats have heads, and let's say that giraffes are tails, because giraffes have tails. Simple. So we're going to flip the coin twice. What are the possible outcomes? We can have a heads then a tails. We can have a heads then a heads. We could have a tails then a tails. And we could have a tails then a heads. So there's 4 possible outcomes right here, these 4 rows, and only one of the 4 is heads and heads. 1 out of 4 is 25%. Does the math come out to 25%? What's getting heads on the first? 50%. And what's getting heads on the second? Also 50%. Plug them into your calculator as decimals. 0.5 times 0.5. So that's 0.25. That's 25%. That's our 1 out of 4. So to determine the probability of the Saints winning this game, we need the probability of every single thing going the Saints' way that they need from right here until the end of the game. So what are those 5 things the Saints need in order to win? First, they need this kick to go through. This 19-yard field goal needs to be successful. Then they have to go on defense and allow 0 points. Then next time they have the ball, they need to get into the end zone for 6. They would still be down 2. They need to get a 2-point conversion, and then they have to go into overtime and win. So we would have to find the probabilities of each of these 5 things, multiply them together, and that is the Saints' probability of winning if they kick on 4th down. But there's a much better way to do it. You could run a 4th down play here on 4th and goal from the 1. And yes, if you don't get it, it's over. You're down 2 scores, 5.5 minutes left, but you'll win more often if you do this. You have 5 ways to win the game, and I'm going to go through them real quickly. You can get into the end zone. You would be down 5. You can get a 2-point conversion. You could be down 3. Then you could get a defensive stop to remain down 3. You can kick a field goal to tie the game up, and then in overtime, you could win. Second way, you could get into the end zone and get the 2-point conversion. You'd be down 3 points. You could get a stop on defense, remain down 3, and then get into the end zone. Who cares about the conversions? You're down 3, you get 6, you win the game. Third way, get into the end zone and the 2-point conversion. That's 8 points, so you're down 3. You could allow a field goal on defense, be down 6, get into the end zone for 6, which ties the game, and then win with a PAT at the end of the game. Fourth way, you could get into the end zone. That would cut it to 5. You could miss the 2-point conversion, so you're still down 5, but get a stop on defense, still be down 5, and then down 5, get into the end zone for 6, win the game. Last way, get into the end zone, you're down 5, miss the 2-point conversion, remain down 5. You could allow a field goal on defense, be down 8, but then get into the end zone next time you have the ball, be down 2, get a 2-point conversion to tie the game, and then you could win in overtime. You have 5 ways if you run a 4th down play to win the game. So just conceptually, this way you have a lot of flexibility. You do need to get into the end zone right here or the game's over, but after that you have some flexibility. The Saints need exactly 5 things all to go perfectly for them to win the game. So we need some probabilities to actually plug some numbers in. The probability of winning in overtime, to me that's 50-50. If it's tied after 60 minutes, to me with one 10-minute period left, 50-50. We also need to know the success rate of a 2-point conversion. The league average is usually in the high 40s. So with Simeon, he's not a starting quarterback. I dropped it a little to 45%. And if we're 45% to get in, that means we're 55% to fail. Those two numbers must add up to 100%. A successful PAT. Last year, the average was around 92.5%. I dropped it a little because Johnson wasn't in the league last year. You know, the Saints would have Lutz if he were healthy, so I dropped it a little from there because he must be worse than starting kickers. The probability of getting in from right here, 4th and goal from the 1. If a 2-point conversion is from the 2 and we're 45%, then from the 1, it must be a little bit higher because those run plays from the 2 that would get stuffed at the 1, well, from the 1 yard line, now we're going to get in. So I bumped it up from 45% to 50%. We also need to know, when we go back on defense, what we are to allow 3 points or fewer. If we allow a touchdown, the game's over. It's back to 2 scores. So I said 90%. These two numbers add up to 90. 90% to allow 3 points or fewer. I don't think it's that high. I don't think the Saints, I don't think the Titans are only 10% to score a touchdown. But skewing the numbers in favor of Sean Payton's decision to kick on 4th down. So if the Saints are 90% to allow 3 points or fewer, that's what this is, 55 plus 35. And I even skewed it more. I put much of the weight towards allowing 0 points. 55% to allow 0 points, turnover or punt, and 35% to allow a field goal. And final thing, once we score, once the Saints get the ball back, what's their probability of scoring? So this is some amount of points, 6 points or 3 points. 60% total to get some amount of points. I don't think it's that high. I mean, they only have 12 points in the game through 55 minutes. But again, I'm skewing the numbers to show even if you put the numbers such that kicking on 4th down is a great decision, it still isn't. So 60% total to get some amount of points, and of that 60%, I put 40 of it towards getting into the end zone. So now let's actually plug some numbers in. So, Sean Payton's way of winning this game, kick on 4th down. You need these 5 things to happen. Let's plug some numbers in. And just for a second, the one thing I didn't include earlier was this 19-yard field goal. I'm putting in 99%. It's very likely, we can't say 100 because they have been missed, but we can go as high as 99. So plug those numbers in, put them in as decimals into your calculator. You get 0.049 when you multiply. Sean Payton's way of winning, kicking on 4th, you're going to win 4.9% of the time. What about my way? Run a 4th down play. These are the 5 ways to win. Let's plug in our percents. It looks like this. We multiply across rows. We get here, and then we add all of these percents, and we get 15.91%. Sean Payton's way of winning, about 5%. My way of winning, about 16%. Let's change some of the numbers, though, because this was Sean Payton's way of winning. You need these 5 things to happen, and here were the percents we plugged in. The percents I think are realistic. But 2 of these are really, really necessary. If you're going to go down 8, you need to think you're almost guaranteed to get a defensive stop the next time the Titans have the ball. And after that stop, you need to think you're near guaranteed to get into the end zone because you're foregoing an opportunity right now from the 1 to get into the end zone. You have to think it's so easy to get into the end zone. You'll kick the 3 here, and when you get the ball back, you'll just march down the field and get in like it's no problem. So let's make these numbers ridiculously high. It was 55% and 40%. Let's make both of them 80%. You're 80% to either force a punt or get a turnover on defense right now, and then 80% Simeon is to march down the field and score. I mean, the Saints only got into the end zone once so far in 55 minutes, but let's say you're 80% likely to do it when you really need it in the final 5 minutes of the game. So now, how would the numbers look? Here are our percents. We multiply them, and we get 14.26. 2 things to note. 1, this way of winning the game with the inflated numbers is still less than my way of winning the game with the realistic numbers. I was at 15.91%. A second thing to note is that if we're putting in 80% here, we have to put in 80% my way of winning the game. So these were my 5 ways of winning the game if we run a 4th down play. This is every time I needed a stop or needed to get into the end zone. They were 55% and 40%, but what happens if we turn all those into 80%? We multiply across the rows, we get to here, and then we add this column, and we get 41.2. If we think we're 80% to get a stop and then get a score each way, Sean Payton's way of winning the game is only around 15%. My way of winning the game now is around 40. And I'll give you one more alternative scenario. Let's just look at the way I had of winning the game, running a play on 4th down. Because I said each way I have of winning the game by running a 4th down play is contingent on getting into the end zone on 4th and goal from the 1. If you miss, 5.5 minutes left, but you're down 2 scores, the game's over. It's over earlier, the times we fail, but we're going to succeed more often. So, I had 50% to get in. I used the number of a successful 2-point conversion of 45. I said if we're a little closer, it should be a little higher. I said 50%. Let's drop it way, way down. Let's drop it to 33%. I mean, I know it's Simeon, but he's still in the NFL. It's still a team of adult professional football players. I don't think we can go lower than 33% to get in from 4th and goal on the 1. We just have to do this 1 out of 3 times, pick up 1 yard. So we have 33%. We multiply across our rows, and it looks like this. And then we sum this column, and by running a 4th down play, even if we're close to inadequate at getting in from 1 yard out, we will still win 10.58% of the time. Sean Payton's original way, those original numbers, his way of winning the game by kicking on 4th down was 4.9%. That's how likely the Saints were to win. My way, even if you're very, very poor at getting in from the 1, you will still win more than twice as often. So, to sum up, Sean Payton wanted to kick on 4th down. I wanted to run a play on 4th down. Let's compare the two. With the realistic numbers, Sean Payton would win the game about 5% of the time, and I would win the game about 16% of the time. With the guaranteed stops and guaranteed scores on the final drives of the game, Sean Payton, by kicking, would win about 11% of the time. By running a 4th down play, I would win about 41% of the time. And if all of a sudden you're going up against like the Steel Curtain or the 85 Bears, and you think it's near impossible to score from 4th and goal on the 1, and Sean Payton kicked, he would win 5% of the time, I would still run a play on 4th down and win more than twice as often, about 11% of the time. And if we're looking for, any kind of trend through all these scenarios, first scenario, 16% is bigger than 5%. Second scenario, 41% is bigger than 11%. And third scenario, 11% is bigger than 5%. I cannot possibly manipulate these numbers to make kicking on 4th down the right decision. So we get back to the game. The Saints decide to kick, and Johnson is going to make this very short field goal. And everyone thinks, oh, the Saints got a little closer to winning this game. And this was actually when they got a little closer to losing this game.